Hey guys, welcome to It Was All a Dram. As always, I'm your host Jason. And today's on the show, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go over the online Scotch Whisky Award nominations for 2023. So the first category is Best Value Whiskey. First nomination is Ardnamurchan AD. You can see the specs there. This is a half peated, half unpeated whiskey. It's aged 65% in ex-bourbon casks and 35% in ex-sherry casks. Second up, we have Aaron 10-year-old. This is aged in bourbon and sherry mix of casks, obviously aged 10 years. Next up, we have the Classic Laddie from Bruichladdich. This is an unpeated Islay whiskey, and it's aged in American oak. Then we have Kilkerran 12-year-old. This is aged in 70% bourbon casks and 30% sherry casks. That's from Glengyle Distillery, which is owned by Springbank. They call it Kilkerran because Glengyle is also a name of a blended whiskey, and they didn't want to confuse it. Next up, we have Lejeag 10-year-old. A lot of people rave about this whiskey. This is the peated version of Tobermory. That's basically all I know about it, to be honest. And finally, we have the Port Charlotte 10, also from Bruichladdich Distillery. Bruichladdich is peated, heavily peated, 65% first fill American oak, 10% second fill American oak, and 25% second fill French wine casks. So that's an interesting blend. And that's your category for Best Budget Whiskey. Next up, we have Best Blended Whiskey. I'm not going to get too into this, but we have Chivas Regal 18-year-old. This is actually quite a nice whiskey. Cutty Sark Prohibition. I'm not familiar with this one. And we have the Duars 21-year-old. This is also a very nice whiskey, although I would say it's probably not worth 120 pounds myself. Johnny Walker Black Label 12-year-old. It's a perennial. It's always there. It's just a staple in the whiskey world, in the Scotch world. We have McLean's Nose. Again, I've heard good things about this. I have not had a chance to try it. And Thompson Bros TB BSW 6-year-old. This one, Thompson Bros have a lot of good bottlings. A lot of people rave about Thompson Bros. I think they're nominated for Best Independent Bottler this year. Again, I haven't tried this whiskey, but that's what I know about it. Category number 3, Blended Malt. Best Blended Malt Whiskey of 2023. Now this one, I really enjoy this category because I can geek out a little bit. Blended malts fascinate me. So first up, we have Douglas Liang, Big Pete. This is a mix of Caol Ila, Ardbeg, Bowmore, and Port Ellen. Next, we have Campbelltown Lock. This is a Campbelltown, obviously, blended malt. It actually has all of the single malts that come from Campbelltown. So it has Springbank, Glen Scotia, Hazelburn, Longrow, and Kilkerran in it. And third up, we have Compass Box No Name. This is very interesting to me. This is Lafroig, Bowmore, Mortlach, Clynelish, and a Highland malt blend. Sounds very interesting. Next up is Compass Box Orchard House. A lot of people talk about this whiskey. A lot of people really like this whiskey. This is Linkwood, Clynelish, Benrinith, Caol Ila, and a Highland blend, plus a secret Speyside single malt that they won't tell you. Next up, we have The Gauldrons. This is also a Campbelltown blend, so similar to the Campbelltown Lock. This is Glen Scotia, Glengyle, and Springbank. I don't think they have the other Springbank releases. I just think it's Springbank. Ambiguous. And finally, we have Thompson Bros SRV 5 8-year-old. This is a Highland Speyside malt and a small percentage of Islay whiskeys. Best non-malt whiskey. Again, I'm not going to geek out on this category, but maybe I'll say a few things. First up, we have Blue Spot. This is a very good whiskey. A lot of people love this whiskey, and it's no surprise to see it here in the non-malt category. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Again, a lot of people love this whiskey, so I'm not shocked to see it here. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof. I've recently heard very good things about this. I have not tried it. Not the hugest fan of Jack Daniels, although some of the other Jack Daniels releases besides the number 7, I have enjoyed. I don't enjoy the 7. Loch Lomond Single Grain Peated, 46% ABV. Loch Lomond is a distillery on the come up. People are really taking notice of what's coming out of Loch Lomond. And this is a peated grain whiskey. Sounds interesting. Next, we have Wild Turkey 101. Again, no surprise to see it on the list, but I would argue the next nomination, Wild Turkey Rare Breed, is going to beat it out. So, I don't know, there's 2 Wild Turkey offerings. Next up, we have Best Distillery of 2023. So we have Ardnamurchan, which is Western Highlands. We have Benromach, which is a Speyside distillery. We have Bruichladdich, which is an Islay distillery. Glen Scotia, as discussed, is a Campbelltown distillery. Then we have Loch Lomond, as I was mentioning earlier. People really taking notice. That's Southern Highlands. And finally, Springbank, which again is Campbelltown. That's really the 2 major players in Campbelltown. There's only 3 distilleries. Springbank owns 2 of them. This is a good category. Springbank probably will win because, it has that reputation, but it's very hard to find Springbank products, and a lot of these other ones are really, putting out good whiskeys. So it is possible that someone else takes the victory this year. We'll see. Best New Distillery. We have Ardnamurchan again, nominated as Best Distillery and Best New Distillery. Possibly means it could win this category. I don't know. We'll see. Bimber, that's an England distillery. It's good to see them on there. Isle of Rassay, Western Highlands Distillery. I got a little sample bottle of Isle of Rassay, but I haven't really tried much from them. Kingsbarn Distillery in the Lowlands. Lag Distillery, also in the Lowlands. Good to see some Lowlands distilleries, new distilleries. And Lindores Distillery, also in the Lowlands. I recently got a bottle from Royal Mile Whiskies, store exclusive, single cask Lindores. Haven't opened it yet, but I'm very excited. Next up, we have Best Independent Bottler. I don't know a lot about these, but I will read them off for you. Most of them are well-known independent bottlers, for what it's worth. First, we have Cadenheads. Next, we have Gordon MacPhail. I believe that's the biggest independent bottler. North Star. Signatory Vintage. The Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And finally, Thompson Bros. Thompson Bros, I believe, is the smallest one on here. Don't quote me on it, but I think so. All right, Category 8, Best World Whiskey. Again, no surprise to see Blue Spot. Indri Trini 3 Wood, 46%. I have not tried it. I don't know much about it. Cavalan Soloist Vino Barrique. I have a bottle, which I have not opened, a Cavalan, I believe it's ex-bourbon. I don't know too much about it. This, I've heard, is very good, but, haven't tried it. Next is Nika Yoichi, no age statement. Powers John Lane 12-year-old. And again, we have Wild Turkey Rare Breed. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Just being honest. And the final category of the night, we have Best Scotch Whiskey of 2023. Number 1 is Benromach cask strength. This is aged in bourbon and sherry casks. Next is Bunnahabhain 12-year-old cask strength. This is mainly sherry with some bourbon. Next we have last year's winner, Glen Scotia Victoriana. This starts in bourbon and then splits for the last year. It goes into 70% heavily charred American oak and 30% PX sherry. It's interesting. And next is Lejeg 18-year-old. I hear people talk about the 10 more than the 18, if I'm being honest, probably because it's the value whiskey. But I've heard people rave about the 18. This is spent 16 years in ex-bourbon casks and then the last 2 years in ex-sherry casks. Port Charlotte, we've already discussed the makeup of that, so we're going to skip past it. And finally, we have Springbank 10-year-old. This is bourbon and sherry, unknown mix. I don't know the percentage of each. All right, so those are your nominees for this year's Scotch Whisky Awards. I believe it's this Saturday, November 4th. Don't forget to tune in. Till next time, cheers.